don't support reparations. Why not?
Not everybody suffered equally. I mean, when you go into slavery, it's much more complex than white people were the oppressors and black people were the victims. If you dissect it, you will find there were about 3,700 free blacks who owned 12,000 slaves, black slaves. The question is, do the descendants of those free blacks who owned black slaves, do they pay? Blacks really benefited more the first 100 years after slavery than we have in the last 50 years.
What's going on, everyone? Talks to Kenny here today. But I'm gonna make the case against reparations, right? And in my opinion, no one deserves reparations, like nobody. And it seems like he's the only one kind of against reparations, but I believe his arguments have more weight because they're more factual, in my opinion, right? He's actually highlighting the practicality of it. And this is the problem that a lot of people in the reparations movement have, is that they don't even know who's responsible, because no one actually suffered from slavery today, right? No one who's alive today suffered slavery, but they don't want to admit this point, right? They want to piggyback off the suffering of people because they happen to look like them. That's the whole argument of reparations. They want something for nothing. They want something for a perceived suffering, not an actual suffering. And I think that's the difference between a lot of people who are against reparations and who are for reparations, because the people who are against reparations, like me, we don't see it as something of you trying to right a wrong or America's being held accountable. It's not. Because in the day, during the Civil War, white people died. Like there were a lot of white people died so black people can have the opportunity to be free. And this is what he was talking about in the beginning of the intro when he said that blacks benefited more from 100 years after slavery than 50 years from now. Because right now, the current generation of black people who've been voting for Democrat for 50 years have been overly reliant on the Democrats. So now in our culture, we've been conditioned to expect something for nothing. We've been conditioned to be entitled to handouts. Because the Democrats, they want you dependent on the government because that keeps them in power. Black people vote for Democrats 90%. Social welfare programs are doing what they're supposed to do. Make people dependent on the government. And if someone's dependent on you, then you have power over them. That's how I've always been like this. But hey, I digress. Let's get into the video.
I was born in 1937 during the Depression. Everyone in my small, low-income black community, 98% of the households had a man and a woman raising children. Elderly people could walk safely in that community without fear of being assaulted by their grandchildren. Never heard a gunfire during that time. Never heard of a child being shot to death in the crib. But there are 50 children today who have been shot and killed in our cities.
So his first point I agree with. This is what when black conservatives talk about its culture, this is what we're talking about. Economically, the black people prior that just got released during 1939 during the Great Depression, they had more social cohesion than black people today in 2023. Even though black people today in 2023 has more material wealth than people in 1939. But you see the difference? Like, no one was getting shot, no one was getting killed. Thomas Sowell had an excerpt in one of his essays where he talked about how Harlem was so safe that you could sleep on the bench and nothing would happen to you. Try doing that now in 2023. Try doing that in Harlem in 2023. And this throws this argument that, it's because of poverty that black people are committing all these crimes. No, it's you looking for an excuse. Personal responsibility. This is why I say personal responsibility is more empowering than victimhood. Everything's everyone else's fault. Black people seem to especially the reparations people. Y'all seem to want to look for alibis. Oh, it's because of my skin color. This is why I can't do anything. And you have to pay the alibi. But when you look at it, you'll be like, hey, you haven't been doing anything. You've just been sitting here complaining about life. But what have you done to help yourself? And I think this is what his core argument is that black people got conditioned to depend on someone else instead of depending on themselves. They got this idea that they can't do anything for themselves. Now, in this video, I'm going to share a clip right now to illustrate some of the reactions from the panel. And this is out of order. You won't find it in the original video. It's just I I'm tying things in to help make this a more engaging video. But let's take a look at some of the panel reaction to what this old man just said.
Disheartening and dangerous statements. I think we have to be careful in what traumas happen to our family, not to let them affect our worldview, right? Because my brother-in-law was killed by the police, which was founded to help capture enslaved people or newly freed people. So we have to make sure we have all the facts on what's going on. Or to say that we don't still feel the effects of what happened 150 years ago. I don't know Patrice, but I know my great-grandmother was a slave, and I know that the reason I feel a sort of way when I get pulled over is because of what happened to the newly freed people. And I know that reparations is equal to accountability, which our country fails to do, right? Right now, we're talking about modern-day book burning by whitewashing history. We don't want to teach people that look like me what really happened to our ancestors. And I think that's equally dangerous. And I think that it's incumbent upon all of us to know what America came from.
So my counter to that is that he's talking about that, oh, whitewashing history. End of the day, America was founded by a bunch of white people. I don't know what to tell you, bro. If you don't talk about the white people, you can't talk about American history. Okay, we got that out of the way. When you talk about history, in my view, black people has been sold a cherry-picked version of history. That's my argument. 1619, cherry-pick history. Right? What conservatives are trying to tell you in school, right? It's Ron DeSantis specifically in Florida, is that there was more to America than just slavery. You making the footnote of the history of America the headline. And this is what we're talking about. You want to, because it benefits your agenda, your beliefs, what you want. So you want to highlight that as the headline when it's just a footnote in American history. And because it's a footnote in American history, it shouldn't be given so much attention that it's getting now. Overall, America fought the Civil War to free the slaves. Now, some people are going to be like, oh, no, that wasn't its original intentions. End of the day, it was one of the objectives that was achieved because the southern states would never wanted to succeed if the northern states didn't want to abolish slavery all around. This is the reason why the southern states wanted to succeed from the Union, because they knew, oh, the free states want to abolish slavery. We don't want to abolish slavery, so we want to separate from the Union. And this is how the Civil War started. So regardless if you want to admit it or not, indirectly, slavery was the reason that the Civil War happened in the first place, right? And then Frederick Douglass, I read a historian account of what he did. He came out and he was telling the slaves, hey, freedom is something you fight for. And he handed them guns and weapons to go train them so they know how to use it so they can participate in the war. Because he was looking at the slaves like, yo, what y'all doing? You don't see that if we win, you're free? And he had to rally the troops, essentially. But this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is the mentality that a black conservative have. Economic freedom is something you fight for. Rights is something you fight for. This used to be the culture in the black community in the 1960s. This is the culture that got us the civil rights movement. The old man here is trying to tell us, but he's trying to act like like Americans are trying to erase history. End of the day, Black history is American history. There shouldn't even be a Black History Month. To me, Black History Month is insulting. Because end of the day, it kind of divides, it's race referencing again. It's this racist idea that, oh, we don't have a shared history. Like we have two separate histories. And then here's another history point that I want to bring out. What about the black slave owners? What about them? Did you learn that in school? No. If you come from a public school, you didn't learn about no black slave owners. In your mind, all the slave owners were white. Even though in 1620, Anthony Johnson was the first black, at least, slave owner in America at 1620. So the 1619 Project put in this idea that America is systematically racist. Okay, then how this black man became a slave owner in 1620? Look it up. Anthony Johnson. This proves my point that you guys are just cherry picking history. Y'all don't want an accurate account of history. Y'all just want a account of history that benefits your narrative. And that's what it all comes down to. So I don't want to hear people giving me these useless platitudes talking about, oh, if you know your history, half of y'all don't even know if you actually are African American. Half of you most of y'all don't even know your own history. But you, for some reason, you know for sure that you deserve reparations. This is some craziness I'm hearing right now. But hey, I digress. Let's get back into the video.
Talking about remedies, we've got to look beyond saying that every solution has to have a winner and a loser. That blacks can only benefit if whites lose. We have to be defined more than just victims of oppression. When whites were at their worst, blacks are at their best.
Bars. Because and they and this the concept that he just brought up, because this guy actually went through discrimination. We Gen Z and the Gen Z millennials, we didn't go through anything like how the old heads went through. So I show my respect. You know, I listen to my elders when they passing game on me. I listen. That's part of why I'm so smart. My dad tell me, game, hey, look, you don't have to vote for Democrat just because you're a black man. Look at Obama. Obama was all talk. Don't believe what politicians say. Look at their record. Look at their actions. That's how you judge if a politician really believes what they're talking about. And most don't. That's the warning my dad gave me. Thomas Sowell, stop looking for saviors. Stop looking at these politicians like they're going to save you out of oppression. No one's going to save you. Only you can save you. Personal responsibility. Now, I'm crazy. I think of extreme ownership. I think everything's my fault. If something bad happened to me, I think it's my fault. Because end of the day, I know I played some part into how it came about. I may not control what happens to me, but I control how I respond. And how do I respond? Do I respond in a way that makes situations worse or better? That's the personal responsibility I'm talking about. And I think this is the kind of message I think the black community needs to hear. Instead of looking here, oh, I'm a victim. I need someone to say no. And it's because of that democratic pandering y'all used to. That's why y'all act like this. That's why y'all act like y'all entitled to reparations. End of the day, I think reparations is a facade. Reparations y'all trying to exploit the fact that y'all happen to look like the people that were suffering under slavery. That's it. Half of y'all don't even know y'all actually are a descendant of slaves. But hey, y'all think, oh, I'm black, I'm supposed to get reparations. California is the first state to try to instill reparations when throughout California's history, it's always been a free state. California never had any slavery laws in its books, but it's paying reparations. How does that make historical sense? That's not factual. That's not factual sense. Why is a state that never participated in slavery paying reparations? Oh, because it's all of America, Kenny. Okay, here's my question. If it's all of America, who will pay for all this stuff? Y'all gonna say the government. Okay, who pays the government? Taxes. Who gets taxed? The citizens of the country. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Right here, I'm gonna put a diagram here. Okay, this is the percentage of people that pay taxes. Okay, the people in the top 25 the top 25% of taxpayers that pay taxes. How many of them actually got that through generational wealth? I'll wait. Most millionaires, most billionaires are self-made. Only about 30% of them come from generational wealth. So even if you try to make the claim, oh, it's because the current generation of Americans benefited from generational wealth, that don't prove anything. Like most people who are in this tax bracket, who pay most of the taxes, by the way, who's responsible for almost 70% of the government's tax revenue, they're likely not. They didn't get it from generational wealth. So boom, reparations argument take a hit right there. But y'all still think y'all deserve something though. And then here's another historical fact. Most white people that are here in this country, most of them are descended from immigrants, just like me. I'm a descendant from immigrants. Most white Americans, they're in the same position. Irish, European. If you look at the population size of America during when slavery was going on and you look at it now, we have 400 million people in this country. When slavery was going on, I think it was there was tens of millions of people in the United States during that time of slavery. We had 400 million people. You think 400 million people, 95% of them have a connection to slavery? Are you crazy? But you want people who, even from a generational standpoint, had nothing to do with slavery, but you want them to pay for your reparations. This is why this is the case against reparations. Because it's not actually about reparations. You have California paying you guys reparations or trying to pay you guys reparations when they never been a slave state in its history. You guys are being inconsistent. Slavery is not reparations is not about righting a wrong. It's about you benefiting off the suffering of your ancestors. That's my case. And then when y'all bring up reparations, other groups of people are going to start coming out. Because when I notice what reparation is, once you discount the slavery part, they want to move on to all racism, police brutality, this, that.
Absolutely. Generations of farming. My ancestors right out of slavery could read and write, and I think that's why I know so much about my family history. We have autobiographies. I mean, I think wealth comes in many forms. It comes in education. It comes in just our family being together still after all of these years. It comes in knowing your history, which a lot of Black people in this country do not.
Do you ever?
Hey, she said it, not me. So she counted other things. Oh, this is not monetary wealth. It's also education. It's also knowing your family. It's also being a part of a family, right? And like I already stated earlier in the video, what she represents is the minority of wealthy people in this country. Right? And I already said it, 95% of white people don't even have any connections to slavery, because most white people are descendants of immigrants, like I am. But y'all want to claim that, oh, they benefited from white privilege or something, even though in this country, Asians make has the highest average income in the country. But my point is that privilege is not necessarily something that's inherent in your skin color. What she referenced there was a lot of things that was not tied to skin color. Family unit, knowing your history, education, being literate, right? She didn't say, oh, my family did nothing because they were white and a black slave, like they're interracial, or, oh, they were just slave owners, so they were fine. No, she didn't say that. She referenced things that were skills, knowledge. And that's what I think we should be focused on. Hey, let's make our people more literate. We have a high illiteracy rate in the black community, especially financially. Oh my God. Most generational wealth that white people get in this country are due to life insurance. How many black people you know that's on life insurance? I'll wait. Not a lot. And most people who are on life insurance are men. So if you come from a community that's 70% single motherhood raised, the chances of you having a mom that's have life insurance is like 2%. Because women don't tend to go on life insurance. And white people disproportionately goes on life insurance. Is that racism or is that a choice? I'm just saying, you make different choices, you get different outcomes. That's all I'm trying to say out here. But the fact that you didn't make those choices doesn't mean that someone else have to pay for that, for your lack of choices or your lack of action. But hey, I digress. Let's get back into the video.
Access to hotels. We built our own. We have to communicate to our people the history of how they achieved in the face of oppression. But if we continue to sit back and say all of the challenges that we face in out of wedlock births of violence, that somehow the control of that is in the hands of white America, and therefore until white people change, there's nothing that we can do. This sets up a terrible situation for this nation. The big crisis facing America is not racial. It is a moral and spiritual freefall that is consuming our children.
I agree. It's culture. That's the main point. I focus on the humans, the human capital. Y'all focus on political. That's the main difference between a black liberal and a black conservative. Black conservative think, hey, if we focus on the people, we educate the people, we galvanize the people can make a different decision, which forces the politicians and everyone else to change their ways to get us. This is my main point of why I said Black America shouldn't be loyal to the Democratic Party, because y'all can't do that. Y'all so linked to one party that the other party don't even want to compete for your vote. Where if black people just change their mentality and say, hey, we're willing to vote Republican, you can get the best candidate possible. Who's going to make a better candidate? Someone that has to fight for your vote or someone who don't have to fight for your vote? I'm just saying, if you think of it from a strategic point of view, what the black community is doing is putting their eggs in one basket. And everyone knows, any smart person knows, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. But hey, I digress. That's not a logical move that the community does as a whole. But hey, you get what you vote for. Y'all keep voting Democrat, when if you look at the policies long term, they negatively affected your people. Crime rates has been linked to single motherhood percentages, right? But before Lyndon B. Johnson's war on poverty, the black community only had 25% of people raised by single moms. From that point on, because, he put in the sense of, oh, your man can't be in the house, and black women got this idea that they can raise kids by themselves. Culture, that's culture. By the time we got here in 2023, now 70% of our community is raised by women, single mothers. 60% of them are raised without a father. And that creates disparities. That creates high rates of crime, low literacy rates. Most of the black boys raised in these families can't read at a third grade level. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But, the people who voted for Lyndon B. Johnson during that time, they benefited greatly from that. Oh, I get more benefits than what my husband can work for. But in a long-term perspective, it hurt the black community. But then y'all want to call that systematic racism when really it was just the previous generation making a bad move, a bad choice that the future generations are suffering from. That's what I'm saying. It's if the community don't look inward at solving its own problems, it's always going to go through this. no matter how much money they get. If you look at the lottery statistics, if you guys get reparations, y'all gonna end up just like it's like a lottery. Y'all gonna squander it. And then what y'all gonna do? Y'all gonna come back for more. Y'all gonna find another reason to justify why you should get more money. And it's gonna create this this habit and this cycle where people get comfortable asking around for money, even though the people they're taxing to provide that money had nothing to do with slavery in the first place. This is why I say reparations has nothing to do with accountability. It has everything to do with people just wanting something for nothing, wanting a handout. Y'all got no moral position on this. I don't see it. You can act like, oh, other people got reparations. Okay, other people got reparations. When did they get reparations? Oh, right after the events happened. Okay, you think your ancestors was worried about getting money for their suffering? When your parents was going out here getting jailed for civil rights, you think they were waiting for a check, or they wanted something more, rights? Imagine if your ancestors had a choice. Hey, do you want to get money for the way we mistreated you? Or do you want the right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for your entire people and your entire lineage? Which one do you think your ancestors picked? They picked the pursuit of life, happiness, and liberty. They wanted those rights guaranteed for the future generations of people because they didn't want to personally benefit off of their own suffering. They did it. They planted a tree where they would not know the shade of. That's it. So us, we can have this opportunity to be here and take advantage of the opportunities. We have more opportunities than our ancestors had in the past. But for some reason, the people who had more opportunities than their ancestors believe that they deserve a check that their ancestors didn't even want. Like this is moral folly. This don't make any sense to me. But hey, people want to be in their feelings and do what they want to do. This is why everyone said the reparations is just another tactic from the Democrats to dangle a carrot in front of the black vote, make y'all more dependent on them. And all black conservatives are saying is, hey, stop looking at the government to do something for you. If you want to change in your life, it's mostly your responsibility. So you have to do things that actually take yourself out of poverty. Stop waiting around for someone else to do it, because you'll probably die before reparations becomes relevant again. How long have I been talking about reparations? You got people who died to free the slaves. You don't think that's reparations enough? Nope. I have to personally benefit from it. This is craziness to me. Reparations, to pay people who never been slaves from people who never were slave owners. That's what reparations boil down to. Shout out to Larry Elder. But hey, I digress. I think I made my point. I think I made my point in this video. You can agree, disagree. Let me know what you're thinking in the comment section. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.